I'm just going to start by giving you a bit of a background about Parkinson's. So Parkinson's, as you'll see from this graph on the right, is amongst the fastest growing neurological conditions in the world, and indeed it's overtaking Alzheimer's disease. Even amongst expert clinicians, it's a difficult disease to diagnose and to manage, and that's due to its complexity. Due to its fluctuating nature, which is an inherent part of Parkinson's disease, it's a challenge to monitor. Patients may only see clinicians, such as myself, once or twice a year for a 15 or 20-minute clinic appointment, and therefore monitoring of progression in different ways is needed. We've seen in COVID, and we've already heard this morning, the importance of remote monitoring with chronic long-term conditions such as Parkinson's, and in here, home monitoring is particular of relevance. So already we've heard a lot about mobility and how it's important generally, but in Parkinson's disease we know that mobility problems appear early, so they appear even before Parkinson's motor symptoms actually manifest. They evolve over time, and they're particularly resistant to the therapies, to the drugs that we give to people with Parkinson's. These lead to profound personal challenges. Because of this, we know that people with Parkinson's highlight gait and mobility problems as the most important problem that they wish to prioritise in a research setting, and that was shown in a research setting priority partnership published in the UK. The references are here. As we've already heard from Lynn this morning, the measures we have for monitoring mobility have limitations. Where we do measure mobility, it's really important that we deliver the most relevant insights. And this is a really nice, eloquent editorial published in the Movement Disorders Journal by Sonia Mather, who is a Canadian physician and someone living with young-onset Parkinson's disease. She highlights the concerns that she has with the current rating scales that we use. So one of the measures we use is a motor scale, the UPDRS Part 3, and this provides just a sort of snapshot into a patient's life. She emphasises that home-based monitoring really has the opportunity to monitor patients in that home environment, and that's of much greater relevance than the glimpse that might be seen in a clinic or even a brief research review. So we know that mobility is important in Parkinson's, and up until now we didn't really have the appropriate tools to measure this. And really that's where Mobilise-D and the valid outcome measures it provides fills this major gap. And this has had and will have major impact in Parkinson's disease. These tools we have measure what matters to patients, and the aim ultimately that this would lead to personalised care. So we know and we hope that in Mobilise that we'll be able to provide the next generation digital tools that will support research going forwards into mobility in the disorder and really help drive therapeutic development. And we're already seeing this at the moment. So just really to provide some very high level, some top level results. So here, and I've mentioned that we, at the moment, the gold standard for measuring disease progression and monitoring disease severity is this motor score, this UPDRS Part 3 here. However, as discussed by Sonia Mather in a previous editorial, this is prone to variability, it doesn't reflect the fluctuating nature of the disorder, and it's time-consuming. What we think is the DMOs collected from the wearable technology in Mobilise may be able to address these gaps. What we've seen as very kind of early results here is that actually the UPDRS Part 2, which is a patient-reported outcome measure, so this measures the impact of motor symptoms on activities of daily living, and we did see a relationship here between some of the PACE domain DMOs. You'll see that the correlation is low here, and that's what we expect, and that's because the UPDRS Part 2 measures a myriad of symptoms. But it was greater than that seen with a motor score. And again, we've heard this morning already from Yayan of the importance of this, of patient-reported outcome measures to regulators. It's important to patients, and it shares some parallels with Duchenne's. And again, you're going to hear more about that this afternoon. What else have we learned taking part in the Mobilise-D study? You've heard lots of words about collaboration, and really we've shown that we've been able to work collaboratively, whereas previously maybe many people have been working in silos. We've worked collaboratively, and we'll continue to yield insights with further analysis. We've been able to build on this with future working. We feel that the cohort we have from the 5 sites shown here is representative in terms of age, gender and geography, and this ensures that the results are generalisable. This study has delivered a comprehensive panel of digital mobility outcomes that we know provide accurate, reliable outcomes and also ensure a common approach to mobility assessment. Mobilise-D has also allowed us to study mobility loss over a number of different disease severities. You'll have seen some of that from Judith's work earlier this morning, but also looking at mobility loss in disease-specific problems in Parkinson's, such as freezing of gait and falls risk. It's also been possible to obtain different perspectives of mobility that matter to patients, so beyond just step count. It's given us new insights into activity amount and pattern, and this is relevant to me as a clinician for self-monitoring for patients and also to guide clinical advice regarding activity and exercise. Measuring mobility in our PD cohort using wearables was feasible and it was acceptable, and to date we've only actually had 4 patients who have dropped out due to sensor issues. Compliance was high for both the belt worn and the lumbar sensor, and people enjoyed taking part, and here's just a couple of quotes collected as part of work done by Alison Yarnall. And again, you're going to hear more about the compliance and feasibility in Alison's talk this afternoon, but this is looking specifically at people with Parkinson's. Nearly everyone said that they felt that it was acceptable to be remotely monitored with a wearable device in the study, and most people felt that they would use this going forward in their clinical care. And because of this, funders really recognise the importance of this work. We've been lucky enough as part of this study to be able to leverage further funding from the Michael J. Fox Foundation to take forward an extension study of Mobilise-D where we'll assess participants at an additional time point. And we're also recruiting and in the process of recruiting 200 healthy controls that we're reviewing at baseline and after a 12-month period. The MJ Fox grant has also allowed us to collect some qualitative information, which will allow us to ensure that we're measuring what matters to people with Parkinson's and also ensuring inclusivity and diversity. Again, going on from what Jan talked about this morning, it's really important that we talk with the regulators, and this will be helpful going forward using DMOs in current clinical trials. Some of you might have seen this guidance published in the UK from the National Institute of Health and Clinical Excellence, which was guidance on devices for remote monitoring Parkinson's disease, just published earlier this year. And it's important that we're mindful of this going forward. And lastly, myself, Walter and other members of the team are also involved in other IMI projects such as IdeaFast shown here. And this is important to ensure that we share information and really provide added value across these IMI studies. So that really just leads me to thank the wonderful PD cohort that we have. Many of us have data analysis as part of a poster session. As I said, please come and visit the areas where we look at the work and the analysis in a bit more granularity, and we'd love to see you there. Thanks very much.